everyone. I posted a quick video about my winter sowing method on my Instagram in a billion little clips, but I thought I'll put it on my YouTube. That way you can have a little more drawn out, personal, thought out version if you want to winter sow seeds along with me. So here's what you're going to need. Obviously, your seeds. I'm planting some turtlehead, an interesting Pennsylvania native. I have some plant markers. You don't need them, but they're helpful because then when you transplant this out into your soil, you can just put the marker down with it. You'll definitely need either them or a paint marker. We're going to use a Sharpie here for a little bit, but you'll want the paint marker because Sharpie will definitely fade, if not wash off of your jug. Then you want a clean jug. You can use one of these. I get distilled water in these. You can use one of the clear ones or a cloudy one, like my plant water here. The cloudy ones tend to be a little better because they're not, essentially what you're doing here is making a greenhouse, and the cloudy ones don't let through as much sun, so they're not going to burn. But you can definitely use these clear ones. I'm going to. They just need to be set in a more protected space. You'll also need some duct tape, a cutting implement. I like my good old box cutter, and potentially something to poke holes with. I have my Dremel with a diamond bit here to just melt the plastic. You can also use a screwdriver and a lighter, and just take your lighter and heat up the end of the screwdriver to poke holes. Next, you need soil. I bought new gardening soil. Believe it or not, you can get it. Walmart has it right now. And I bought some organic seed starting mix to mix together. My soil outside is really hard clay, so this is going to give it a nice aerated light mix that's going to drain well. So winter sowing is primarily for native flowers. As here in Pennsylvania, we have winter. So any seeds that are dropped in fall are going to go through a freeze, thaw, cold pattern before the spring comes. And a lot of seeds have evolved to need that to germinate. Turtlehead is one of those seeds. So by winter sowing, we're creating a small greenhouse that's going to mimic those conditions, but in a way that's not going to wash our seeds away. That's a big one. You can plant all this outside and in your ground, but the seeds might wash away. They may also get eaten by hungry birds. So this is a more controlled environment and maybe a little more organized. The first thing you want to do is make sure your jug is clean. Mine just had water in it, so we're good to go. If yours had milk jugs work great. They also definitely need rinsed out and cleaned thoroughly. So this jug is handy because it has lines already on it. I took my box cutter and cut the whole way around except for one little hinge. A popular method of drawing a cutting line is taking something stable, resting your pen on it, and then turning the bottle to draw that line straight around it. It'll cut it nice and level. That's perfect for milk bottles. The next thing you need to do is make sure there is drainage in the bottom. So I put 6 good size holes. You can tell these little triangle holes are from my box cutter. Not as easy. My Dremel melted right through. You don't need them to be so big that the soil is going to fall through, but you do want plenty of them because very, very few plants, even the ones that like wet soil, they don't like what we call wet feet. So their roots don't want to be sitting in water unless it's like a swamp plant. I've read that you should use sterile soil only, brand new from the store. I've read that you can use any soil from outside that you have as it's made to mimic the conditions of outdoors. And as long as you're okay with bugs being in wherever you're making your things, your little greenhouses, they're going to live outside. So if there's bugs in the soil, it's fine. So the next thing you're going to do is take your soil and fill your jug about 2 to 3 inches in the bottom. So that's about how full I'm leaving my container. Make sure you protect that hinge. It's very important for when we close this off to create a greenhouse. Next, you need your seeds. It's always super important to read your seed pack. The key of knowing whether your seeds need cold germination is usually just on the packet. This one says seeds germinate after 90 days of cold, moist stratification. Mine don't say how deep they need to be planted. Some seeds, believe it or not, don't actually need planted. They need scattered on top of the soil because they need light to germinate. So I'm going to go do a little Googling and see what turtle head needs. So turtle head is one of the seeds that needs light to germinate. I'm just going to sprinkle it on top. But first I'm going to wet the soil a little bit because turtle head likes it pretty wet. Just taking some water from a gallon here, sprinkling it in. Not so much that it's going to drain out the bottom, but you wouldn't believe how absorbent dry soil is. So these are my turtle head seeds. I'm going to sprinkle them on top of the soil, and you don't have to worry about planting them too close together because we're going to thin them out eventually, but you don't really want them on top of each other. And I definitely just breathed into my hand and blew them everywhere. So you want to spread them all throughout. Don't forget your corners have some room too, but you don't want them too close to the edge because we don't want their roots peeking through. So there we go. There are my seeds in my soil. Some of these are a little close, so I'm going to take my seed marker and just scooch them apart. Just scooch them apart because I don't want them to germinate on top of each other. We are going to thin them out eventually, but they're going to be here for a while. Next, if you have seed markers, this is a great time to put them in. I'm going to put one in facing in and one facing out. That way, hopefully, I can read through. Next, more water. You want to make sure you get it good and moist because sometimes these things are apt to dry out. You may need to spray them if you have a number of days that are just dry. This is the hardest part by far. Duct taping it sealed. Now, some people will poke holes and just join it back together with pipe cleaners. You can do that, especially in this one where the soil, there's no danger of the soil washing out because the cut is clear up here. But I'm going to take some duct tape. You don't need to seal it up perfectly because you're going to take the cap off anyway. So just do your best and stick it back together. Several short pieces of duct tape work better than one long one. And that figures. And I wound up using packing tape because I'm out of duct tape. So here's our finished product. When I go outside, I'm going to take the lid off. And that's how our moisture is going to enter in. I'm going to keep an eye on it about once a week. If it's too dry, I'll take my Dremel and poke some more holes in up here to let more water in. If you don't have seed markers or you're just not confident in them, now is the time to write on here. So with your paint marker, I'm going to put a nice thick TH for turtle head. And there we go.